Good evening and welcome to GETI's Live Talk, hashtag Disruptive Education. I am your host, Zainab Molai. So, Global Education and Training Institute works towards transforming education, and we transform education by providing trainings. We provide two types of training. That one is pre-service training for the aspiring teachers, and one for the teachers who are already in service, pre-service training. And third, we also conduct these live talks on our forum on Facebook. By this, we transform education, and we are driven by the vision of our founder director, Dr. Sunita Gandhi, who has been working like since a long time to transform education, and she has given a very good curriculum and stuff to the people, and they are using it. So with this, we have been hosting around 1,000 talks since last year, and we are still counting more. So, we have a very special guest with us today, Miss Deepti Verma, Head of Department Mathematics, Mio College School, Ajmer, Rajasthan. She's having a composite experience of 24 years, in which she served at various middle level administrative positions in a boarding school, and presently she's serving as head of the department. She has done her master's in mathematics from Kanpur University, and she is a B.Ed with additional courses in computer application, GCC Green Belt certification from UCLA Extension, and CAIE certificate mathematics course with a cultural blend of course in Indian instrument music and Indian cultural dance. So her passion for the subject has made herself a learner in terms of devising methodologies where children are motivated to learn and engage with mathematics. She has also created various mathematics applications and mathematics Over to you, Deepti ma'am.
Thank you, Zana. Thank you. Thank you for a wonderful intro. Uh, Good evening, everyone. I would like to thank Team Getty and Dr. Sunita Gandhi for giving me an opportunity to share my views on the progressive pedagogies. And uh, as teachers, we have been doing a lot in past 2 years in terms of virtual education, I would say, and it's been a tremendous hard work of the teachers that has really made the education come a long way. So here I go. So I would begin with saying that in the ancient learning of Vedas and Puranas, the education system has come a long way from old gurukuls to new high-tech academic institutions. In modern word, the education in modern the education has not only become the technical but also it has become learner centric, and we need special skills to deal with the learners of 21st century, and they need skills not only for science and technology but also the skills to learning, listening, collaborating, visualizing, imagining, and thinking. So I would take up as uh, I I I basically see that the education now and its future basically depends upon three factors. Now, what are those three factors? The three factors that I have stated here are, first is the technological advancement, and second is the pandemic, the sudden changes that we see in the global scenarios, and the learners of today. So even before COVID-19, there was already high growth of adoption in educational technology. If we read the newspapers, the studies, it says that the global edtech investments reaching almost 17 billion US dollars. Whether it is language apps, virtual tutoring, video conferencing, or online learning softwares. If I talk about the education in past 1.5 years, there has been significant surge in the online usage since COVID-19, and the overall market for online education projected to reach, as per the study, if I remember, is $350 billion by 2025. Now, the second thing that we see is the sudden changes and the change in the generation that is taking place. So, I'm taking up the pandemic situation because that is the well spoken situation nowadays in terms of education sector. Because the two sectors which are hit badly by pandemic, one is the medicine sector and another is the education sector. So, with the sudden shift away from the physical classroom to virtual across the globe, everyone is wondering whether the adoption of online learning will continue to persist post pandemic also, and how such a shift would impact actually the worldwide education. And third factor which I see affecting the education now and future education is the learner, which is the central entity in the education sector. So, when we talk about 21st century learner, we as teachers and parents need to work more as mentor and facilitator. Now, what basically does a learner need today? So, I would begin with the self motivation. Now, psychology plays an important role nowadays. Self motivation. Today, it is researched and speculated that children learn through their own internal motivation rather than if we compel them to do something. So, if we make them understand, it creates a lot of motivation amongst themselves, and then they would really do wonderful job. The next that I would like to talk about is the acceptance of perspectives. Now, when we say perspectives, it further disseminates to say valuing opinions, the healthy discussions, the arguments. Now, people many a times, my friends and colleagues say that the children have become very argumentative. It's not only the arguments, it is, if we get them into healthy discussions and arguments, and then eventually it becomes unanimous agreeable perspective. Now this would definitely direct them to the right research and the teamwork, right? And then comes the experimentation. Now every child, be the child is in primary, pre-primary, or adolescent, or at the senior level colleges, they would try to experiment. Now the word is changed to the experimentation phase. Everywhere there are experiments, experiments and experiments. So this is what the learner actually needs today and is looking for. So experience that comes from hands-on activities. If you do something, you may fail in that, but you try, do again. So the experience that comes from hands-on activities and from each student's personal experiences as well. When we share experiences, we really learn. So experimentation, I would say, is a very key part here. Then then comes the research. Now it's a Google age. Most of the time we see, and the parents also complain to the teachers, that the child in the past 2 years especially is sitting with the laptop or with the mobile and with the Google uncle. So anything, anywhere, if you say something, if you say this is this, no, let me just check on Google, let me just research more about it. So the child wants to know a more than what is told to him, and is more inquisitive now. So, in the age of Google, the research has become an important part, or I would say an integral part of the routine that the children have. So, we just need to monitor them. Then comes the observation. As observation is related with the community based learning, I related with the community based learning rather. So, observation I related with the community based learning because with the nuclear families that we have now, it's very important that we prepare the child, and the child actually needs it. So the community based learning which prepares them for social and psychological reforms. So it's a norm, again, important thing here, important need here rather. Then when we say that the child has done the experiment, the research and the observation, what where the child relates it, the child says, oh, this is happening in the real world, then he really understands and he says yes to things. So I'm sure everyone would agree that a child wants to connect everything he learns to his real world. We many a times nowadays schools have appointed psychological counselors. Now, why there is sudden need of it? Because the children need to connect what they are learning. We need to really see how they are behaving, what is their actual or the real word is. So everything is relate to the real world significance. Now the question arises for us as teachers, that how do we teach well? You know, how do we teach well in the age of intelligent machines? And how to assess the real learning, not testing the rote memorization? I would like to quote here that truth and knowledge arise out of observation and experience rather than manipulation of accepted or given ideas. Now, this makes us think in a different way, or it won't be wrong if I say that in a progressive way. We are not criticizing, I'm not criticizing the traditional teaching. But what I am saying is, with the changes in the word, with the changes in the word, with the changes in the word, we need to think in a different way. That's what progressive word stands for. So, what are progressive pedagogies? So when it's a well spoken concept around the globe, and nowadays everywhere so many workshops and everything, it says no, you need to make your approach interdisciplinary, integrated approach. You need to look at a number of dimensions to it. So psychological, the social, which promotes the inquiry based perspective and stresses the value of experience, right? So it is defined as educational movement. Now it's termed as educational movement, which gives more value to experience than formal learning. This approach concentrates on the development of child's talents. It reflects self-consciously about teaching methods and the teacher-student relationship, basically. I would say it's the connect. The progressive pedagogy is the first step, is the connect with the child, connecting the student with the teacher. Is there a real connect between the two? So, as teachers, we need to, it's not that I'm saying that encouraging disagreement, but yes, certainly if there are difference of opinions, if there are disagreements, then treat the classroom as a place where these differences can be articulated, and why there are differences, can that be analyzed? You can give the children to think about it. The more they think, the more they analyze, you can see the difference in their learning. That becomes a progressive pedagogy. Right. So it treats students as participants, not as spectators. So we need to really emphasize on active inquiry, investigation, which really develops the critical awareness of problems. So where there is critical awareness, automatically this that disagreement goes and comes to the unanimous perspective. So then people say, why is it so? What is the need of progressive pedagogy? Again, I'm not saying, not criticizing the traditional teaching method. What I am saying is there's nothing like good or bad teaching. It is more about, in my opinion, it is more about effective teaching, right? So classroom used to be the, the hierarchical based and the power privileged, uh, sort of. And then traditional approach to teaching diminish student agency, limits the perspective. Now there are students who don't really conform to the norms, and then we say, no, go out of the class and stand there and do that. So it was confined within the walls of rote learning. So the need of progressive pedagogy is not the criticism, but the change needed with the changing times, the changing world, and the changing generations. So I would like to list a few components of progressive pedagogy here, and would like to start with the experiential learning. So we need to emphasize on learning by doing, as I said earlier, to hands-on projects. So that gives the experiential learning part of the progressive pedagogy. Then, when we strongly emphasize now the critical thinking and the problem solving, as you can say in the slide, now the two are really related. When you have critical thinking, then you can really solve the problem easily. So, those problem solving skills fall automatically after you have the critical thinking. So we need to create that in the student so that they understand the concept, they understand the curriculum in a more progressive and effective way, right? Then comes the social and the collaborative learning. Now collaboration, the social skills, which are really diminishing with the nuclear families. So how we can incorporate that in a child in the school with our teaching pedagogies, when we give them group work. Now there is a group work, automatically, and the collaborative learning, it really plays an important role in development of social skills. So, understanding the action to be set as the goals of learning, opposing to rote knowledge. Now, democracy is like education for social responsibility and democracy, education for all, inclusive classrooms, right? So, and we have ample number of examples of inclusive classrooms. NCRT is working a lot on this and creating an awareness about it so that every child gets the education, every child has the right to the education, irrespective of its special needs. So that's the democracy. Then it's the integration of community service and the service learning projects into the curriculum, promotes lifelong learning, because when you are involved in the community service projects, then it really gives you lifelong learning. Now, emphasizing beyond textbook in favor of varied learning resources. So the textbook is not the Bible, I would say. The textbook is the support, is the tool, right? Gives you the points to be covered, but there is a lot varied resources that you can use to make your class interactive, to make your teaching effective. And that's again a main component of progressive pedagogy. So characteristics of pedagogy, as we say, are the classroom is student centered more, where you know there's a lot of class observation, or no, the classroom has to be absolutely quiet? No, the classroom, the student should be involved in groups discussions, the healthy discussions, to come up with different perspective, to look at different perspective. So that creates the awareness about something, the concept, and why not. I can relate a lot with mathematics and sciences, being a maths teacher. Instead of saying just follow this formula and apply it, no, why not this formula? If I apply this formula, why not this? So, seeing different perspectives. Classroom is student centered. Teaching methods are inquiry driven, organized around problem solving investigations. Instructors' passion. Now, one has to be passionate enough. That's very important. Conveys more about subjects' real words. If you connect what you are teaching to the real world, the student can gauge. They many a times ask, why do we study calculus? Why do we have to do trigonometry? Now, if you connect it to the real world, that yes, this is the significance. Why do we do matrices? Right? So then they would really do it well. They would do it with a purpose. Metacognition critically reflects about the content and the thought process pedagogy. Very important component, part, characteristic, which is an integral part of classroom experience. So basically, what is the main thing? That it creates a participating classroom where students are engaged in active learning, group research projects, which may involve designing and uh, study, constructing, things like that. So, what are some effective progressive pedagogies? I've listed a few, though, of course, different subjects have different methods, different pedagogies to work on. But yes, these are certain which can be incorporated in your teaching in most of the subjects. And if you follow that, you can really see it might take a little time to design it, to think about it, to give, to check, but believe me, that little time given saves a lot of time later. Okay, so the effective pedagogies, as I've listed here, one is the group research. So the group research is something where you design the study, right? After designing the study, you give them a project that this is what you need to do, and it should incorporate these points: design the study, construct the measurements, select the sample, then what is the strategy that you use for sampling, collecting the data, then how you are analyzing the data, how you are interpreting the data, what are your what your results communicate after that, after the research. So again, it's not something wrong, no, this can be improvised, or if you include this in your research, it would give you better results. Then comes children. I've tried it in my class. Children are very happy to see any clips from the films or ads or something. You can always ask them, you know that you can engage them in the study, whatever concept you are doing, and relate which ad and which clip you can infuse in your teaching. So that stimulate the discussion. Suddenly all the those who are sleepy suddenly gets awakened. Oh, this ad, fine, fine, okay. I say, oh, this ad, what is it conveying? Basically, what is the purpose behind that? Did you see? Did you see something? In this ad, there was something behind on the wall or something written there. Did you ever give, notice of that? So when we give it, then it really creates, it stimulates discussion and the important issues and the experiences that can be dramatized. When you give children to dramatize something, they would come up with lovely ideas. Then comes integrating stimulations. While integrating stimulation, I mean that into your teaching, several students might act out issue that the class can analyze. Thus, in a social science class, students might dramatize the social issues. In a commerce class, raised giving them the case study that whether this contract, continuing with the contract with clients and all, how do you do that? What are the financial aspect of it? What is the economic part of it? What is the mathematics behind that economics? How do you see that? So it's all a student official of our mathematics society did a wonderful study on how the value of money nowadays is. So, with the big, huge numbers as the government project, these many billion rupees or this much, these many students are getting midday meals and all. So, she did a wonderful study on it. So, it's the moment you give a little direction to the students, you give them something to research on, you would see that it really has created critically, stimulated their mind, right? So community based learning projects are really helpful, very helpful, because it teaches them the empathy, the sensitivity towards one another, which is very important and disappearing these days. A lot has been talked about, right, in talk shows and all, but how it can be incorporated. If we incorporate it at the school level, then it would really make a difference. Whatever you learn in the school is always with you throughout your life. Then the another effective progressive pedagogy, I would say, is the critical analysis. There's something, oh no, I have given you a paragraph, you need to learn it, you need to give produce the answers out of it. There's something called critical analysis. No, when you critically analyze, say, an article from the news media, you would try and examine, give the student, examine the article's biases, what the article says. Are there any biases? Are there any omissions which could have been incorporated? Are there any implicit assumptions to it? So, this really broadens the perspective, their mind, and their learning, and they can really connect when they do so. And when you develop those case studies for assessments and purposes, not testing their rote memorization, but testing what they've understood. So if you develop the case studies which connects which has the real world scenarios to visualize and connect to the real world, it would definitely make difference. So, in the end, what I would say is that yes, we are in the era of high tech technology, but technology is just a tool in terms of getting the kids to work together. Now, this is said by Bill Gates, that in terms of getting the kids to work together and motivating them, the teacher is the most important person in his life. So education is our passport to future, for tomorrow belongs to the people who prepare for it today. I'm not a teacher, but an awakener. The art of teaching is the art of assisting discovery. I strongly believe on that. Thank you so much.
Thank
Over
you
to
so
you.
much, Deepti ma'am, for such an amazing session. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. It was really very interesting. And yes, the progressive pedagogy, we all are like every school around is trying to move. And yes, surely this pandemic brought a drastic change in our pedagogies. Maybe schools were teaching in the traditional manners prior to this, but now, uh, as the pandemic stuck, they started using the modern pedagogy. They started using these new pedagogies, and they were teachers were on the forefront. They were the quickest learner. We say children are very quick learners,
Yes.
but I would say teachers were the quickest learners. They learned these technologies. They did not use computers prior to this just to send an email or just to submit a report or make an Excel. They used it for this purpose, but now they were using it for uh, teaching their children, for developing quizzes, for using different apps, and they learned it with a jiffy. Although many teachers took help from children, because children, as I said, are quick learners, and at times I also took help from my students who helped me to use new apps and techniques. Like you talked
They
about
are, yeah.
simulation app. Yes,
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 ma'am.
they are more, I mean, they are more techno savvy than our
Yeah,
generation.
yes,
Definitely,
they are.
definitely.
They are more techno savvy. So ma'am, as you talked about the progressive pedagogy, and you talked about like different ways how can this pedagogy be applied, as you talked about critical thinking and then problem solving and then experiential learning and so on. So like as a mathematics teacher, how will you develop this critical thinking in your students? Like you give them a word problem and they solve it. So will this develop some critical thinking in them, or you correlated with other subjects?
I always believe when we give the open ended problems to the students, instead of giving them the complete part, just give them the open ended sentences and let them figure out. So this really enhances their critical thinking. Right. For example, I can simply say that, okay, find the LCM of these three numbers. Now, instead of, this is a direct way of saying. Now I said, okay, oh Ash, today the bell rang at this time. Oh, next bell will be ringing at this time, and then probably the junior school bell rings at this time. Now, will there be a possibility that the two bells, the senior school and the junior school bell rings at the same time, and the library, the pre-primary bell, so three. So then, if you give them this, and then instead of solving, so of course, maths is one subject where the child needs help. Now, instead of giving the child the complete solution, just ask the child where the child is getting stuck. Is it the first step? Now, if it is the first step, what is the child observing from the question? Right? If he is getting stuck at there, okay, now this is what? Now, related with the real world. Okay, if it says that Rama bought so many books for so many this, did you buy something yesterday, or did you go with your father to buy the stationery for you? How much did you get it for? So they immediately correlate that,
Yeah,
and always give them the problems which are, the child, according to the level. Now, if I give
yeah.
a class 5 student this much percentage of salary, and this is the expenditure, and what would be the saving, now the child is not dealing with the expenditure and the saving percentage and all.
Mm.
You understand? But if I
Yes,
say,
ma'am.
okay, Mama must have given you 50 rupees yesterday to buy chocolates and all. So if you have bought these many, then what is the percentage? So if you
Yeah,
connect it with their real world,
real
it
life
really
examples.
stimulates the critical
Yes,
thinking and analyzing.
yes, ma'am, surely. Like I remember we used to have these problem questions where a boy bought 100 watermelons, and like I used to think, what will this boy do with 100
Yeah.
watermelons? That
Yes.
was
Yes.
a illogical question. Like now I think I won't give this example to my
Absolutely.
children, because this is a illogical question. Nobody will buy 100 watermelons unless they are
Yes.
like doing a going to sell them or do stuff.
Oh, yes. Now, if a question is of 100 watermelons, what you can say? Okay, a shopkeeper has bought it from the wholesaler, where, or from the person who's growing the watermelons, uh, and all, and
Farmer,
then
yeah.
was putting on the shop for sale. Then the child would understand, okay, yes. Or when you take the child to a shop, probably in the school itself, the stationery shop and all, so it's not that the shopkeeper is manufacturing those pens and stationeries. So he's getting it from somewhere and then he's giving it to you. So he must be buying ample number of those stationery boxes so that he can give it to you.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for addressing my query. And now I would like to request my audience, if they have any questions, they can please post it in the comment section and I'll highlight it for my dear speaker. Meanwhile, ma'am, would you like to state something else, like related to your topic or anything? Would you like to say something more?
Except that, yes, we are at, at in the times where there is no stagnancy. Every day is new. Every day something new coming in, and every child is different, right? Sometimes people say, oh, I'm, bored of teaching the same class again and again. Same class meaning the same topics again and again. Probably you are teaching the same topics, but the learners are different. So just adapt to the methodology which are learner centric. Okay.
As you stated, project based learning, or involve giving projects to the children, asking them to work in groups, so you don't have to teach that subject like in the primitive way, and children will teach each other, so
Yes,
this will
absolutely.
reduce your time,
Absolutely.
and you can
And
do
you can work,
assessments.
yes, yes. And you can work as a teacher, you can work as a facilitator. Seeing,
Yes, ma'am.
yes, okay, this is the problem. Okay, this can be thought this way. So they get a direction.
Hmm.
Okay, oh, ma'am said this. Okay, let's see this. Let's research this again.
Yeah. Okay, ma'am. So by this, we come to an end of our session. I would like to thank Ms. Deepti Verma and my dear audience who have been with us all through. And I hope we all got some great insight to the progressive pedagogy from this session. And uh, I hope if my audience have their any questions, they will post it in the comment box, and Ms. Deepti will surely answer them as and when she gets time. And till then, see you all again, and thank you so much, Deepti ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Zainab. Thank you.
Good night, ma'am.